Part 10 of the Markidini crochet along will be working blocks 37, 38, 39, and 40. So working on top of weeks 5 and 6 and working beside part 9 that we finished last week. To start then with block 37, we want to count across 47 stitches from the vertical line from last week. And that should line up just with the far edge of block 24 from week 6. And we'll pick up in the back 47 loops across, make our connection, so we should have 49 loops on our hook for block 37. Making sure when you're counting over to not count those border stitches by the lines. Then you'll want to make sure you have your chart for this block. There's 2 pages, pages 3 and 4 of our pattern. So starting with page 3, you can see how we have our foundation row, and then 2 more rows of straight TSS. So you can go ahead and work those 3 rows right now. I'll meet you here for row 4, and we'll work that together. So after you've worked your 3 rows of TSS, including the foundation row, you'll want to work rows 4 and 5 as well. And it's a series of, there's a few TSS at either end, but it's purl stitches and knit stitches across. The 2 rows are identical, so you can go ahead and work rows 4 and 5. And then I'll meet you at row 6 to help get the cables started. So row 6 starts similar to row 5. We'll do those 3 TSS stitches, 2 and 3 TSS, and then we'll do a series of 2 purl and 2 knit, and we'll work those 4 times. So 1, 2 purl, and 2 knit. So that's 1 set. 2 sets, 3 sets, 4 sets of the 2 purl plus 2 knit. We'll make 2 more purl stitches, 1 and 2. Then we're going to start over these next 4 stitches. We'll work our cable stitches. So we're going to make 2 purl first, 1, 2, and we'll knit in those next 2 stitches. And then for the forward pass cable, we'll take the 4 loops off, the purl stitches fall to the back, put the knit stitches back on, cross the purl stitches. And if you wish, you can use your cable holder for those extra stitches to make the cross. And then we'll work 4 sets of 2 purl and 2 knit on this next side of the cable. So there's my 2 purl and 2 knit. So for my first set, second set, third set, fourth set, and then we want to work 2 more purl stitches and ending the row with the 4 TSS. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We'll make our connection loop. And then you can go ahead and work the return pass, and be careful in the cable because we have 2 stitches over 2 stitches to add that extra chain 1 in the middle. After you take off the first 2 loops, chain 1, and then take off the next 2 loops of the cable. So I'm going to let you continue to work through this chart. It'll be similar to our other Celtic knot that we worked with lots of cables throughout. So just follow your lines carefully, remembering some of the tips I had given about placing a ruler or marking off the line that you have worked so you can keep your place. Also using stitch markers. So the first set of stitch markers you might like to use is on the vertical line. We have done 5 connections, and I suggest marking every 10 rows. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Up the vertical line, and then once you've worked your rows, when you've worked 10 rows, put a stitch marker on this side of the block and making sure that they match up with each other as you continue through this square. You will have a total of 42 rows for this block. So the stitch markers will help you keep track of where you're at on the pattern. So go ahead and work this block, and I'll meet you back here after that. When you finish this block, you'll want to make sure you do the bind off row first. When you've completed this block, you'll want to count over 4 loops to join and attach for the vertical line. It should be just at the edge of the previous vertical line. And then we'll just work the vertical line up to the top. You don't want to bind off here, and we'll pick up the loops across for the horizontal line. You'll have 53 loops on your hook and work those 3 rows for the horizontal line. So after the vertical line, and then we've worked our horizontal line, we want to make sure we work the bind off on this horizontal line across the top of block 37. Then to start block 38 and the following blocks for this part, we will want to count over on the horizontal line the 30 loops across and mark that 30th loop. And we will start behind this loop for block 38. So we can go ahead and work block 38. You can also count over 4 more loops, and on the 34th loop put a marker. We will be working a vertical line from here. And then we want to count over, we want to skip 4 loops from the far side for that vertical line and mark the 5th loop over, and that's where we'll start our last block for this part. So once you have those marked, you can go ahead and start working block 38. It's a block using TSS and the purl stitch. So you just need to count as our counts of purl stitches start getting larger and larger. So you'll join behind this first marker, pick up the 30 loops across, and make your connection. You'll have 32 loops on your hook, and then you'll be working the 12 rows for block 38 and work a bind off row. So when you've completed block 38, you will work your bind off row. Then you will join in back and picking up 30 loops across, make the connection. You'll make that horizontal line with 32 loops, 3 rows of TSS, and bind off as well. Then you can join in back, pick up 30 loops again, make the connection for 32 loops, and do a return pass for the first row of block 39. Block 39 is a heart design using TSS and knit stitches, and then that you work the 12 rows of this block. So after block 39, you'll make sure to do the bind off row across the top of that block. And then we will come down to our second marker on this horizontal line. We'll join in the back, pick up the 4 loops working in front of that bind off row to pick up the loops and make our vertical line of 27 rows up the side of blocks 38 and 39. And then for our final block for this week, we want to start at our last marker that's in on that 5th loop in from the edge. We'll join behind, pick up our loops across. So it'll be 13 loops we pick up for a total of 15 loops on our hook. I've worked the first 2 rows here, the foundation row and the next row, and then block 40 will just follow this chart, again working small cables of 1 over 1 stitch. So I'll work row 3 with you, and then you can go ahead and finish block 40. So for row 3, we will start with a knit stitch in this first stitch, followed by a purl. And then we'll take those 2 loops off to work our cable. The knit stitch falls to the front, we put the purl back on the hook and cross the knit. If you prefer, these cables can of course be made in the return pass as well. Then we work 3 purl stitches, 1, 2, and 3, followed by 3 knit, 1, 2, 3. And these 3 knit that we just made will continue through all of the rows up the center of this block. 3 purl, 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll end this row with a purl stitch in the next and a knit stitch in the last. Remove those 2 stitches, the purl falls to the back, put the knit on the hook, cross the purl back onto the hook, and then we'll join to that 3rd row up on the vertical line for our connection, 15 loops on our hook, and then just work our return pass. If you did the return pass cables, that will happen right first thing on the return pass that you'll need to make your cable. So I'll just let you go through and finish all 27 rows for block 40, and be sure to end with a bind off row as well. So when you have finished up this final block, make sure you do the bind off row on top of that. And then to finish this week, we will come back down and on the far edge, join in behind, working over the bind off stitches, we will pick up the 4 loops across and make our connection for 6 loops on our hook to work our 27 rows of the vertical line. We will bind off and not do the horizontal line across the top, as our border will be connected to those stitches.